Hello students, hope you have understood the chapter Meeting Life Challenges. Today I am going to do a recapitulation of the chapter so that the concepts are further made clear. First we had done what is meant by stress, and I had told you that all challenges, problems and difficult circumstances, they create stress, and we defined stress as a pattern of response an organism makes to stimulus event that disturbs the equilibrium and exceeds a person's capability to cope. We had discussed about two types of stress, eustress and distress. Eustress is considered to be good and positive for achieving peak performance, whereas distress is something which leads to wear and tear and produces unpleasant effects. We had also discussed about the concept of strain. Events like crowding, noise, poor relationship are called stressors, and the reaction to external stressors is known as strain. Further, we had discussed about the cognitive theory of stress. Well, stress is dynamic, mental, cognitive state, and the cognitive theory of stress was propounded by Lazarus and his colleagues, where they had given the perception of stress being classified into two types. One is known as primary appraisal and the other is called the secondary appraisal. The primary appraisal is the perception of the environment as being positive, negative or neutral, and negative events are appraised for harm, threat and challenge. Secondary appraisal is the assessment of one's coping abilities and resources and whether they are sufficient to meet the harm, threat and challenge. Then we had discussed about types of stress. Well, we have three types of stress, which are physical and environmental stress, psychological stress like frustration, conflict, internal pressure and external pressure, and social pressure. And we had also discussed about social stress. Further, we had elaborated about the effects of stress on psychological functioning and health. Now, the effects of stress can be emotional effect, it can be physiological effect, cognitive effect and behavioral effect. Emotional effect means they exhibit emotional behavior or erratic behavior, mood swings. Also, it leads to a vicious circle of decreasing confidence and emotional problems, anxiety, depression, etc. Physiological stress is governed by hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, and they produce marked changes in the form of heart rate, blood pressure levels, metabolism, etc. Cognitive effects are reflected in poor decision-making abilities, arguments, financial loss, loss of job. Behavioral effects further result in addictive behavior or a change in the lifestyle of a person, unhealthy eating habits, lack of nutrition or nutritive diet, procrastination and avoiding responsibilities. Then we had come to the general adaptation syndrome, which was given by Hans Selye, that is called the gas model, which had divided the reaction to stress into alarm reaction, resistance and exhaustion. The alarm reaction is the reaction which is caused because of the presence of a noxious stimulus or stressors that leads to the release of certain hormones. Resistance stage, where the parasympathetic nervous system uses the body's resources very cautiously. An exhaustion stage which drains the body of all the resources and leads to complete exhaustion. Then we had discussed about the relationship of stress with immune system, and we had defined the term psychoneuroimmunology. Now, in this we had discussed the role of four types of white blood corpuscles, which were T cells, T helper cells, B cells, natural killer cells. T cells, if you remember, destroy invaders. I had given you in the form of a table. T helper cells increase immunological activity. B cells produce antibodies and natural killer cells fight against both viruses as well as tumors. Next, we had discussed about the relationship between lifestyle and stress. You know, lifestyle is a pattern of response or the way a person reacts, or the way the person deals with his life. That is called lifestyle. And we had also discussed that certain changes in lifestyle, for example, poor nutrition, too much of addiction, then workaholic behavior, all these changes definitely produce stress. Next, we had defined coping. And coping was known as a dynamic, situation-specific response to stress. There are certain coping strategies coined by Endler and Parker, which are task-oriented coping strategy, emotion-oriented strategy, and avoidance strategy. The task-oriented strategy means obtain information about alternative courses of action and their probable outcome. So you need to prepare a timetable, or you can reflect on the ways that you had used in order to deal with the situation earlier. Emotion-oriented strategy involves efforts to maintain hope and controls one's emotions, or even release the emotions of anger and frustration when required. Avoidance-oriented strategy, there is a conscious suppression of the stress and trying to avoid the situation. For example, you have an exam the next day. However, you are calling up a friend or you are watching a TV. This is avoidance-oriented strategy. Next, we have Lazarus and Folkman's coping strategies, which are problem-focused and emotion-focused. Now, problem-focused strategy aim at resolving the stressful situation and attacking the problem itself by gaining information, altering the event, belief, and commitment. Whereas the emotion-oriented strategy brings about psychological changes which are specially designed to reduce or limit the degree of emotional shattering caused by the event. So people have a general tendency to use the problem-focused strategy. Having discussed this, we had come across stress management techniques, and I had enumerated various techniques like relaxation technique, meditation, of which you are already aware, exercises, and three other techniques which are very beautiful. Number one is biofeedback, where you obtain information about your physiological response and learn the ways to control that physiological response, and further you transfer that control to your everyday life. Another is creative visualization, where you use imagery and imagination, and the power of imagination is used to achieve what you want in your life. So you set realistic goals for yourself and you build confidence. Cognitive behavioral technique involves stress inoculation training, and it was given by Meschenbaum, where negative thoughts are replaced with more positive and rational ones. So it is into three phases: assessment, stress reduction, application, and follow-up. Exercise enhances your functions of the body, good blood circulation, lowers the blood pressure, reduces fat, and improves your immunity. So promoting positive health and well-being is to give rise to a stress-resistant personality. Kobasa had done enough research in this area, and he had given the concept of hardiness, where he has mentioned 3 C's: commitment, challenge, and control. Now, in this chapter, something which is very, very realistic, which we need to apply in our daily life, is something called the life skill. You must have gone through this concept of life skill, and you must have understood that many things that elders talk about in general circumstances have been listed here, and how realistic they are, how practical they are in everyday situation of life. Because they help you to develop that adaptive and positive behavior to deal with the demands and challenges of life. Mind you, life is not a bed of roses, but however, if you apply the right kind of skill in order to fight the stress, life can definitely be worked out in a much more smoother manner. So what are the various life skills? You have time management, which time and again your elders and teachers talk about. You have rational thinking. You improve your relationships, and moreover, care about yourself. If you care about yourself, half the problems of life are solved. Assertiveness, learning to say no, learning to put your best point forward is called assertiveness. And overcome 3 unhelpful habits, which are perfectionism, avoidance, and procrastination. Procrastination means putting off things for the future. Avoidance means pushing the things under the carpet. And perfectionism means adhering to standards that you have set for yourself and not ready to deviate from standards. Well, they have also talked about a very important concept which is called positive health. The positive health acts like a stress buffer, and there are certain concepts which are very much useful in dealing with positive health. They are that of healthy body, high quality of personal relationship, sense of purpose in life, self-regard, and resilience to stress. Positive health have certain factors which act as stress buffers. They are diet, good exercise, positive attitude, positive thinking, and social support. So, with all these things kept in mind, I'm sure that whatever stressful situations occur in the future, we will be able to combat them better because we have dealt with this beautiful chapter of meeting life challenges. Thank you.